The Houston Cougars open up Big 12 play, highly anticipated Big 12 play this weekend by hosting West Virginia. And a year ago, I thought I knew a lot more about what they looked like. It turns out I don't. So I had to bring in buddy Couz to talk about it. Let's jump on in.
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. If you're a U of H fan or just a hater who can stop by, and as we enter the Big 12, I think there'll be a few of those, please be sure to subscribe down below. That way you can listen to Cougs in your newsfeed each and every day. Appreciate you making Locked On Coogs your first listen of the day. And welcome back to the YouTube channel. That's where you found us. It is so good to see you again. Remember, we're doing a giveaway every 200 subscribers. The next one is at 2,000. So subscribe. Help us get there. Like, comment the video. Let us know you're in the contest. If you're a football guy and you're just, I don't know what to say about this basketball episode, tell us in the comments down below, as it's January 4th, how far into the new year do you say Happy New Year? And I want to say a special Happy New Year to my buddy Couz. As we bring in Couz, Happy New Year to you. Couz, how far into the new year do you say Happy New Year?
Probably a week. I've never really given it a lot of thought, but probably about a week, I'd say. I'm almost over it, to be honest with you.
At what point is it no longer new? Anyway, so today, Couz does all things West Virginia, has his own West Virginia football channel. But today you're going to come here to talk to us about the West Virginia basketball team with Hoops from the Hills podcast. First, tell us a little bit about that show. It's kind of on the new front out there. I don't know a whole lot. I don't know the audience is a lot about as we're entering the Big 12.
Yeah, we've been around. We started right at the beginning, really, of last basketball season, the 2022 season, 22-23 season. Mountaineer Paul and I, who has a football channel as well called Mountaineer Paul Talks Football, he and I decided to team up and do a hoops only channel called Hoops from the Hills, just so we could kind of keep the basketball and football content separate. And it gave him and I an opportunity to work together and kind of collaborate on something together, which we enjoy doing. So it's grown pretty well. Obviously, the Bob Huggins saga during the offseason helped that growth, unfortunately. Not really how we want it to happen, but we'll take it, I guess. But yeah, it's we talk all things West Virginia basketball over there. Obviously any major storylines around the Big 12 we'll hit too if we can. But we try to focus on West Virginia over there. But yeah, appreciate you having me on, Parker. It's always fun, man.
Always fun. You mentioned Bob Huggins, and I have to say that until middle of the summer, one of the things I was looking forward to about this conference as a basketball person was this idea that Sampson was going to get to see these great coaches. He's going to get to see Bill Self. He's going to, frankly, at the time, I thought he's going to get to see Chris Beard.
Right.
I saw all these different coaches across college basketball, and Bob Huggins was at the top of the list as far as a guy that'd be like, that's a great coaching matchup. For my listeners that maybe weren't aware of the fallout, obviously he says some things you can't say on the radio. So I'm not asking you to, get yourself in trouble. But what all went down over the summer with Bob? Like that was very serious.
Well, I think it was May, I believe it was at some point. He was on a Cincinnati radio show and made a slur, a homophobic slur that you can't say live on radio. That got him in some hot water. He was real close to getting fired then. The university decided to keep him on. He took a massive pay cut, had to do some sensitivity training, things like that. Well, 6 weeks later, he gets a DUI in downtown Pittsburgh and didn't go well. The very next day, and that happened kind of late at night. It was like 9, 10 o'clock at night. The next day, he resigned. That led to some back and forth between he and the university. It did not end amicably, I guess is the right word. That's a hard word to say, by the way. And then we obviously lost a lot of guys to the portal. Some of our better players actually to the portal, Joe Toussaint and Trey Mitchell, to name two. And then, Houston fans, get ready for Joe Toussaint because he's killing it at Texas Tech right now. But and just there's a lot of other things that have happened since that have really hampered his program. I don't know if you want me to go down the list, but it's been a lot. But yeah, as far as Bob Huggins goes, that's the gist of it.
Well, and you mentioned Pittsburgh and Texas. We think of things as being the next state over is a long way away. Pittsburgh and Morgantown, though, are not that close. They're a little over an hour apart. And obviously a scary situation. And you said not amicable at all. Coach Sampson, and I don't mean to keep dwelling on bad news for you. Coach Sampson, Houston Cougar basketball coach, said earlier this week in a press availability that he thought West Virginia was the most snake bit team in America. That's his quote: "Most snake bit team in America."
Yeah.
And
Mountaineer Paul, my partner, uses that a lot too.
So. So Sampson's from North Carolina, so almost that region of the world. But talk to me, because it's not just Huggins. A lot of other stuff has happened in the last 6 months of that program. What else has happened?
Well, that happened obviously with that kind of got the ball rolling downhill. First off, let's start off before the Huggins incident. We had just made the NCAA tournament. We did lose in the first round, but the season before that they had a bad year. We finally made the NCAA tournament again. We had the top transfer portal class in the country coming in. Okay, we were on cloud nine as a program, as a fan base. We had very high expectations for this team. That happened, and it all came crashing down. Well, the guys leave. A few other guys went into the portal, came back, decided to come back. They end up, because of the timing of the situation, they were not able to go hire a full-time coach. So they appointed Josh Eilert, who was a longtime Huggins assistant, as an interim coach for this season. He has no head coaching experience. He's doing a great job with the hand he's been dealt, but he has very little experience, and he's had a tough hand. But he obviously lost some guys to the portal. He brought in some guys to replace those guys. Well, I talked about that great portal class. Well, in that portal class, you had a guy named RaeQuan Battle, who was one of the top transfers in the country. Right now has played 3 games, which I'll get to, and is averaging almost 30 a game. He was deemed ineligible by the NCAA. They were denied his transfer waiver. Okay, that was one thing. Then we had another guy who transferred in last year and had to sit, named Jose Perez. He got kicked off the team actually for breaking team rules. So he was gone. He was supposed to be one of our leading scorers. Well, then we have Kirk Creesa, our starting point guard, who we're bringing in from Arizona, who was the leading assist man in the Pac-12 last year. Another big portal guy. We find out he gets suspended for the first 9 games of the season for violating some kind of rules while he was at Arizona. So he has to miss 9 games. Omar Silverio, who had transferred in with Jose Perez, found out his waiver also gets denied by the NCAA. And not only did it get denied, they said, you're not even eligible at all next year, so your career's over. So he didn't get to play at all. Then we're playing our first exhibition game of the year. Our backup forward, a Cook, who most of you probably know, Big East, Defensive Player of the Year a year ago in the preseason from Georgetown, had transferred in after the Huggins situation. He was one of the guys that Eilert brought in. He collapses on the court in the middle of an exhibition game with health issues. He missed about 5 or 6 games. Well, we have another transfer named Noah Farrakhan, who's a very good player who they weren't expecting to play this year. But he is now, because RaeQuan Battle, after his waiver getting denied and then his appeal getting denied, he files a lawsuit against the NCAA, along with some attorneys general in West Virginia, Ohio, and some other states. That they filed suit against the NCAA for basically saying that they're being a monopoly, and they're not letting these young student athletes compete and earn NIL money because they're not letting them play. And they're, basically their rules are biased and they're not being fair. So lo and behold, the NCAA, the ruling goes against the NCAA. They deem everybody eligible. Battle gets to play. Farrakhan gets to play now, even though they weren't expecting him to. Their first game back, what happens? Our starting center, who was also a star transfer, Jesse Edwards from Syracuse, breaks his wrist. He's out for a month. So it took me a long time to get through that list.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that, and I probably left something out at some point, but that's where we are.
Well, and so there's a lot of stuff to watch in this matchup because honestly, it's hard to tell what you're going to get to see because we don't know a whole lot about West Virginia yet. But if you're looking to watch this one in person And you're like, where do I get tickets to that one? Let me tell you, go to Game Time, download the Game Time app today. They got tickets for everything all around Houston or wherever you are. And you can get the lowest prices guaranteed on whatever comedy, theater, arts, sports, anything going on. They got your tickets. They have all kinds of different things where you can like go to the section. You say, I kind of want to sit roughly in this part of the stadium or venue. They'll pick your row and seat. Gets an average savings of about 18% there. If you show them that you found a lower price for the same row and section, they'll give you 110% of the difference back. So make sure you go to Game Time right now. Use code Locked On College. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off of Game Time for your first purchase. Go to Game Time, down the app, and use code Locked On College for $20 off today. All right, so Couz, we're still trying to figure out what they're going to look like here. You mentioned Battle's getting nearly 30 a game. That's a difference maker in any league of basketball,
right?
But certainly in the 3 games he's been there. What can you tell us? I mean, you went from a team that lost SMU early in the season to playing Ohio State to overtime last week. Those are 2 very different teams.
Right.
What can you tell us about what they look like right now?
Yeah, well, very guard-oriented right now because of the absence of Edwards. They had to move a Cook from who is back, by the way, from his health condition. But they moved him from a 4 to a 5. He's having to play the 5 right now, which is not really his natural spot. So they've become very guard-heavy. They've got RaeQuan Battle, who's a 3, basically. They've got Couz at the point. They have Noah Farrakhan, who's another star player in his own right, averaging about 15.5 a game in his 4 games. He's there at the 2. And then you've got Quinn Slazinski, who's a stretch 4 in there as well. But so yeah, we're playing small ball, so to speak. They like to space the floor offensively, try to drive the ball to the basket, kick it out to shooters, or let guys like RayQuan, Noah Farrakhan, who are really good at getting to the rim, let those guys work as well. And then you've got Couz, who's a magician with the basketball, really good at throwing lobs at the rim to a Cook and other guys, and also getting it to shooters when he penetrates, but and can shoot it in his own right as well. I mean, he's no slouch either. He's averaging 10 a game, shooting at about 38% from 3, so he can do some damage as well. But so yeah, I mean, that's what they look like offensively. Defensively, they like to play man. They've struggled though in man, and they've actually implemented a zone defense, 2-3 zone a lot this year, and have actually been successful with it. Jesse Edwards, that I mentioned, he came over from Syracuse, was a double-double machine at Syracuse. And we all know Syracuse with Jim Boeheim loved to play that 2-3 zone. So Jesse brought that with him to West Virginia. And early in the year, when they had all these guys out and were having to play with a short bench, they thought the 2-3 would be a good way for them to save their guys' legs. So they went to it, and they've gotten pretty good at it. They won't play it for a whole game typically, but they will switch to it when needed. And it's a good way to slow down opposing offenses and whatnot. It's tough to rebound out of, and they do struggle getting rebounds, but you'll see a mix of man and 2-3 zone on the defensive side, basically.
So the 2-3 zone is interesting because as a coach, I actually kind of think it's harder to rebound out of a zone because you're not assigned a person to go block out. I think common wisdom with little kid basketball would be like, well, you have more guys standing by the rim at all times, but there's no blocking out. It's harder to find guys to block out.
And it's I've seen it with my own eyes. I mean, I've seen guys, the ball go up and a guy just stands there. He turns to get the rebound. Well, here comes a guy in behind him. Rebound, puts it up in for a score. So great point. Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was agreeing with what you said.
No, I was going to say that, Houston's a team that offensive rebounds about 42% of their misses. And do you think that they're really going to, and frankly, shoots the ball well from 3, and 3s can hurt his zone? Yep. Do you think that you're going to see a lot of West Virginia zone this weekend, or is it how consistently are they doing? Is it regardless of who they're playing?
No, it's as needed typically. It depends. I mean, the matchup's going to dictate it. He doesn't want to play zone unless he has to, but they've had a few times this year where they've just needed some kind of spark, something to change things up, and they'll go to that, and it helps because the other team's not expecting it, and it kind of throws them off rhythm, and it gets West Virginia, kind of gets some momentum going, They get a couple stops, get a couple baskets. Next thing you know, you got momentum on your side, and things are starting to roll a little bit. So it's more of an as needed, kind of like Huggins used to do. I don't know how much you know about the 1-3-1 that West Virginia used to run a few years ago. Kind of the same thing. They'll just go to it when they need to get a few stops, stop some momentum, or if they have a guy that's hurting them inside, they might go to it, something like that. But it's not going to be for an entire game. And honestly, against Houston, you may not see it a lot. Just to be honest.
When I think of Huggins 1-3-1 zone, I still think of Javon Carter at the front of it. Honestly, back in the day. Another Javon Carter's another talented guard, very different guard than RaeQuan Battle. I hope. Tell me if I'm speaking on Turner. I think RaeQuan Battle seems like the guy that makes the thing go on offense when he's in the game. It's a whole different kind of game when he's out there. He looks like a pro scorer, 6'5", listed at 185. You mentioned getting 27.3 points per game, almost 30 points per game. In the Ohio State game, that's the highest level of competition he's going to play against. What stuck out to you about what RaeQuan brings to the basketball court?
Just his athleticism. He's an absolute phenomenal athlete. He can jump out of the gym, but he can also hurt you from three as well. I mean, he's a second leading rebounder on the team right now as well at 6.3 rebounds a game as a guard. He's really a three, but he's only six. Like you said, he's only a 6'5", so not the tallest guy in the world. But because of his athleticism and his aggressiveness, he can get you some rebounds as well. He's just a scorer. He's just one of those guys that he finds a way to score the basketball. And that's the only way I know how to describe the guy. He's just a natural scorer, and he scores and he shoots the ball a lot. He's not afraid to put the ball up. Some fans have actually gotten frustrated. They say he shoots too much. I'm like, dude, he's averaging 29 a game. Let him shoot.
Yeah. No, it's hard to argue with results in that instance, I think.
It's like people saying Michael Jordan. He's not Michael Jordan. I'm not comparing the two guys, but it's like people saying, well, Michael Jordan shoots the ball too much. Okay. Whatever you say.
So how is – this is the last thing going into the game. How have the Mountaineers handled road environments? Houston and Fertitta can get kind of rowdy. It's a fun basketball atmosphere. They're doing a red out for the first Big 12 game. But West Virginia has been the Big 12 for a long time now. Obviously, things have changed for West Virginia, but how do they handle the road this year?
Well, I mean, they haven't played on the road a whole lot. They've had a few road games, but it's mostly not very well. They've got some, but it's mainly been chemistry issues, man. They haven't really played a road game yet with their full roster, is the thing, because the Ohio State game was a neutral site game. It was in Cleveland. So it's really hard to get a feel because, again, it's been a variation of lineups that he's had to throw out there, and you really haven't got a feel for what. But they haven't played good at home or on the road. So, I mean, it's hard to I don't know that they've been better one or the other. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's a tough environment. By the way, I've never been to Fertitta. I've seen pictures of it. I've seen videos of it, and it looks like a really fun place to watch a basketball game, by the way. And I'm hoping to get there someday. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge for West Virginia, really. It really is.
It's a really cool stadium. It's like a nice combination of the intimate college stadium size, but it like because of how steep it is, anyway, it's a fun vibe. And then they put the students right there on top of it. It's a lot of fun. It is not the only show in town this weekend, though. And as it's not the only show in town this weekend, if you're like looking at those other games happening across the country and you're like, I need to put something on that. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, the Houston Texans season, that is, and there's still plenty of time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. We put down a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, on that money line bet you put down for the Houston Texans this weekend. They got Houston favored by 1.5 points against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I'm taking Houston in that one. Obviously, CJ Stroud's been a little bit screwed over by not getting picked on to the Pro Bowl roster, I have to imagine. Again, that's a 1.5, and then also the money line at -120. I'm telling you, do it at FanDuel.com. Go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. Make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, Couz. Now, I have to ask, not to pick on you in West Virginia, because it has been a season of stuff that's outside your control, a lot of it. But they're 5-8.
Right.
And the Big 12 is a marathon and a gauntlet put together. Realistically, how much is on this line for West Virginia this weekend? I mean, they kind of need to win a lot of these Big 12 games.
My Mountaineer Paul and I, we actually did a show about this on our channel. Shameless plug there. We actually did a show about this earlier in the week, about this topic. West Virginia's 5-8. Typically, I would say in the Big 12, if you win 17 or 18 games as a Big 12 team, there's a good chance you're going to get in a tournament, especially with the schedule West Virginia plays. We played a tough out-of-conference schedule. A lot of Power 5 competition and some really good, mid-majors. 17, 18 wins will get you in. Here's the problem, though. West Virginia has lost games to Monmouth, Radford, UMass, SMU. None of those losses look good on your resume. The Pitt loss don't really look good on your resume. They're not that good. They killed us. So I'm of the thinking that they might need to win 20 games now to get in, obviously without winning the Big 12 tournament. And to do that, they would have to go 15-3 in the Big 12. That ain't happening. I mean, I don't care if Jesse Edwards is back. Who's back? That ain't happening. I don't know that Kansas or Houston's going to go 15-3 in the Big 12. No offense. It's a freaking gauntlet. And so to me, the only way the West Virginia is going to get in the tournament is, like Paul mentioned on a show we did earlier. They're probably going to have to go once they get everybody back, get Jesse Edwards back, assuming everybody stays healthy, they all start gelling together late and maybe go on a run and win the Big 12 tournament or something like that, which they have the talent to do. But it's a lot, it's hard to reel off that many wins in a row. But something like that's going to have to happen for this team to get into the tournament, in my opinion. Or maybe they do win, 11, 12 games in the Big 12. And the committee looks at this team and goes, you know what? This team is not the same team that lost those games early in the year. They deserve to be in. Maybe that happens, but I'm not counting on it because you have to count those games, you in my opinion. So, it's going to take some kind of semi-miraculous run at the end of the season for them to get in the tournament. And it's unfortunate because of the talent the team has. It's just unfortunate.
And you mentioned this, the conference tournament can be the ultimate equalizer. Mm-hmm. I don't mean to write off, any team with a guy's getting 30 points a game has a chance in any game because that guy can just get hot and win you a game, right? That's the beauty of basketball is sometimes the dude got hot, right? Mm-hmm. How realistic do you put those odds? I mean, I'm not going to go tell you West Virginia fans that you're a hater if you say it's low, but how realistic do you have those odds for West Virginia? What are you thinking?
Golly, if I had to put a number, I've never actually put a number on it, but I'd say 10%, maybe.
Well, and so that leads me in a roundabout way to Josh Eilert is mm-hmm. He's a West Virginia guy. He got mm-hmm. there in 2007, kind of worked his way up the coaching ladder. I opened the show by saying, I came in the Big 12 excited to see the Huggins and Sampson matchup that we'll never get to see, right?
Right.
What is Josh Eilert a coach of the future? Is he just, he's going to be someone else's lead assistant next year? Where does that leave the program if they're kind of stuck here, after the progress you thought they'd made?
I mean, barring the miraculous turnaround that I mentioned, I don't expect them to be here next year. My opinion is for two reasons. Number one, there are a lot of coaches out there who are well respected, well thought of, and have a lot of experience that are interested in the West Virginia job if it comes open again. And I don't know if you're Ren Baker, who is a guy, by the way, that's our AD, who has a background in basketball. He was a former basketball coach. came up as a GA under Sutton at Oklahoma State, has hired a lot of basketball coaches in his day, and has hit home runs almost every single time. He knows basketball. And I just think he will probably make the decision to move on from Allard and bring somebody in with experience. West Virginia is a top 25 program, and they deserve a coach. And I'm not saying Allard. I don't mean this to bash Allard, but I think that they're a program that's at a level that needs a coach that's got experience and that can get that team, has the experience to get a team into the NCAA tournament. And I just don't know that Allard's there yet. I think he will be. I think he's a good coach. Plus, I don't know that they're going, because of all this crap that went on with Huggins, as long as Josh Allard is there and he's a Huggins disciple, you've kind of always got the Bob Huggins shadow looming over the program to me. And I don't know that they're going to want that.
Because you went it was directly from John Beilein to Huggins, right? So that's, that's two
legends.
There weren't, and I'm about to say, I don't know what Huggins' Hall of Fame status is given the most recent incidents, but on the floor,
thankfully he had already gotten in. But
on the floor, he was certainly a Hall of Fame coach, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, things can alter that, but it is a historically good program, to say the least. Couz, last certainly not least, you're doing a lot of West Virginia content, football stuff, basketball stuff. Where can people find you and the work you're doing all the time?
Yeah, first and foremost, Hoops from the Hills, since this is a basketball episode. Hoops from the Hills, where we cover West Virginia basketball with my partner, Mountaineer Paul. Check us out over there. Also have Couz's Corner, where I cover football, cover a lot about conference realignment when it's heating up. Cover a little bit, try to cover some Big 12 content as well when I have time. But those are the two main places. You can find me on social media at Couz206. For those of you watching, I think he's got it on the screen there. And then for those who are listening, it's spelled Couz, because it is not really spelled like it sounds. But and also I was throw that in. And I have a website that I'm trying to build as well. That's fairly new, called CouzsCorner.com. If you want to go check out some really good articles and blog posts over there, and you can also get access to my videos and my audio only podcast there as well.
And that's Couz's Corner does all kinds of Big 12 stuff too. It's not just West Virginia.
Yeah,
it's whenever there's
West Virginia.
Big things going on. So make sure you go check that out as well. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Thanks for Couz for stopping by. Thank you again, though, for making us your first listen of the day here every day here at Locked On Coogs. Locked On Coogs is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team, and I guess in my case, that's the Cougs, and your case, that's the Mountaineers. Every day, go Cougs.